Welcome to our weekly Forex market analysis call, and this is for trading for the week of October 15th to the 19th, 2018. Just a quick disclaimer before we get started here. This is for educational purposes only. Trading is a risky business, so please be careful with your money. All right, so we will start off by taking a look at our Forex Factory calendar as usual. And actually, I've been asked this question once, do you have to use the Forex Factory calendar or can you use any calendar? Any calendar is fine. It's all the same events. I'm just used to using the Forex Factory, so I tend to go there, but you can use your own broker's calendar as well. All right, so starting off here, Monday, important data here for the U.S., core retail sales and retail sales numbers. These will be important. So we saw the CPI number drop for the US. So now there will be a lot of focus on the data coming out of the US. If the numbers are not good, then it will have a negative impact on the US dollar because market participants will start expecting Fed not to raise rates or delay raising rates. So this number here will be important. We do have Bank of Canada Business Outlook Survey, which will be important for Canadian dollar here. CPI, which is an inflation number for New Zealand. This will be important for New Zealand dollar. And again, CPI is also known as inflation. It's one of the key numbers that the central banks look at. So that's why this number is very important. And then we have average earnings index for a British pound or a UK here, and also employment data. Again, very important. With these numbers, all three numbers are important here. And if we see that the employment numbers are good, but the average earnings numbers are not good, it can still have a negative impact on the currency. So keep that in mind. All the three numbers need to be positive for it to actually go higher. So a positive number can push British pound up, and a negative number will have a negative impact, but for all three, not just for the employment rate, unemployment rate, or the average hourly earnings for all three of them. And then what else? We have MPC members speaking. Again, anytime there is FOMC member, RBA, MPC member, these are all central bankers. So their speech or their comments can have an impact on the currency. So it's important to just keep an eye on those. Now, a very important number here, CPI number, again, like we just talked about, this will be very, very important. So Bank of England did an interest rate hike already. Now, if the number comes out positive here above expectations, that will be good for a British pound. So we could see British pound actually move up as a result of that. We saw this with the US number. It came out negative, and we saw US dollar drop as a result. So if this number comes out positive for UK here, it will have a positive impact on British pound. And the numbers have been positive for UK. So if this is, or it stays positive, then there's more pressure on Bank of England to raise rates, essentially. And then we do have a very important thing here, FOMC meeting minutes. So this is not an actual FOMC actual meeting and a conference, but the meeting minutes, what's discussed at these meetings, that has a big impact on how the market will perceive what's going to happen. So again, a very, very important thing to pay attention to. And I find prior to these events, the market tends to go sideways. It will start to consolidate. So keep that in mind as well if you're trading here. And then we have all these central bankers speaking. So their comments do make a difference here. And then we have employment numbers out of Australia here. Again, will have an impact on Australian dollar. And then we have Bank of Japan Governor Kuroda speaking. So his speech will be important because really the key thing that the market looks for when central banker is speaking is what is the monetary policy impact? Are they going to keep the loose monetary policy? Bank of Japan has had loose monetary policy forever. Are they going to keep it that way, or are they going to start tightening it? That's really the main question that everybody is looking to get answered out of the speech. So keep that in mind. Any kind of discussions around monetary policy can have an impact on the yen here while he's speaking. Retail sales numbers, a lot of data for British pound here coming out this week. So based on how the numbers come out, we can expect a lot of movement in British pound, and it can be positive or negative. So that is something important to keep in mind. And then we have EU Economic Summit. When we have these important meetings like this, the thing with these is that because there are no planned comments or speeches, they can have, like, we'll see officials get asked questions. So the journalists asking questions to these people. And these comments that come out of these questions can have an impact on the market, and generally do tend to have an impact on the market, because these will be important questions they are being asked. And depending on how they answer these questions, that will have an impact, especially with Brexit being a concern right now, and the whole Eurozone, the political and the economic environment in there. Any questions around that can have an impact on euro. So that's important to keep in mind, and actually can drive British pound as well if there are any comments related to Brexit in there. And then we have Chinese GDP numbers. So even though you may not trade Chinese yuan, but China is a big trade kind of partner with Australia and New Zealand. So these numbers will have an impact, or can have an impact, on Australian dollar and New Zealand dollar here. And then we have Bank of Japan, Kuroda speaking once again on Friday here. And then we have numbers out of Canada. So Bank of Canada has done several interest rate hikes. And at this point, they've essentially said that we are going to wait and see kind of how things go based on data, as well as other events that are playing out in the world. So as a result of that, they've said we are not going to just continue raising rates, but we will wait and see. So with this one, if the numbers here come out positive, that will again be positive for Canadian dollar, because it will just kind of add to the whole expectancy of interest rate hikes out of Bank of Canada. And then we have Bank of England, Governor Carney speaking. Again, that will be important, even though Bank of England is not really, they're not looking to raise interest rates at this point, but his comments will make a difference. All right, so let's go on to our charts here. In terms of where we sit currently, this is our weekly. So we did see that price had gone into the support level here. This is where the support level is coming from, and it has bounced off. So in terms of our weekly, we have a bullish to a neutral candle here. And the reason I say that is we do have a bullish candle close. So price opened lower and closed higher for the week, but there are pins on both sides. So as a result of the pins on both sides, it gives it a bit of a neutral bias. So bullish to neutral will be the bias. So it's not extremely bullish, but there is that bullishness in it as well. So at this point, what can we expect? So the question here will be, can price sort of go above the 1620 level? And if it does, we could see it go all the way into the highs here as well. Overall, the price is trading in this range. It's been sitting in this range for a period of time now. It did try to break through here, but it got pushed back up. So at this point, it is neutral here, bullish to neutral. So I would expect it to go higher, looking for it to go into the 1620. And if it breaks through here, looking for it to go into towards the high. So 1620 will be the first target, and 1750, 0.1750 will be the second target for the upcoming week for euro dollar. Pound dollar here on Friday, we had a big drop in British pound, but we saw it go up prior to that. So in terms of the weekly here, it gives us an indecision candle here as well. We see that price went up and came down, and now we have a small bullish indecision candle here. So again, this one can go either way as well. The important question here will be how price reacts when it goes into the highs or it goes into the lows. And that's really what the deciding factor will be, because at this point, it can go either way because this is an indecision candle. So if the price drops into the low, breaks through it, then I'm looking for a pullback and looking for price to go into the next support resistance level. On the other hand, if it goes and tests the high, breaks through it, then we're looking for price to go into the next level on the other side. So at this point, we are looking for price. Price can go either way. So it's a neutral bias here. So let's take a look at, let's mark these numbers. So if price breaks out to the upside, and now there are a couple of different reasons or a couple of different ways this can happen. One can be because price does, the British pound numbers for UK come out positive, in which case it can push the price up, or US dollar keeps on dropping. If US dollar keeps on dropping, all the US crosses will go up then. So that's so it can happen because of either reason. We saw the US dollar drop and then we saw it go back up on Friday, and that's what's created this kind of a two-way move where price has gone in both direction and the market doesn't know where it wants to go. So we need a trigger for that. So if it breaks through the high here, I'm looking for 1.3495, so about 1.3500, which as we can see is an important support and resistance all the way through. Now, if it breaks out to the bottom here, then this looks like a good support resistance level. As we can see, price has reacted to this several times. 1.2780 will be the target. So, all right, let's take a look at Aussie dollar here. Aussie dollar, we had talked about this. We had a big drop the previous week, and now it looks like price has pulled back. So it's pulled back into this 0.7120 level, and in this case, it could pull back higher into 71.65 or 80 level there. And then overall bias still remains to the downside. As we can see, price has been dropping here. And if you were to draw our trend line here, we're still maintaining that downward trend. So in this case, there could be further pullback. There is room for further pullback, but if the price could turn either where it is currently or pull back into that level and then turn, or it could pull back higher into the top of this candle, which is 0.7250, and then turn around. So overall bias still stays bearish, but we could see a deeper pullback in this before we see a drop. So something like this here, price dropped, pulled back, and then dropped again. So that's what I will be looking for, a bit of a further pullback here, either into 0.7180 level or higher into 0.7250 level, and then a drop from there. So overall bias is bearish, but there is room for it to move higher. New Zealand dollar here, in terms of our weekly here, very similar behavior as we saw in Australian dollar. It is at an important support and resistance level going all the way over here. So for this one, I would look for either price to turn around at where it is currently at 0.6540 level, or it could also pull back deeper into 0.6580 and then turn around. Now, having said that, if the US dollar drops here, all of these could turn around. And that will be for all the US dollar crosses if US dollar just drops. So that's why it's important to keep an eye on the dollar index. So if US dollar keeps on dropping, everything will go up against it, and it can pull back even further all the way into here, because that's what price has been doing. But overall bias here is still to the downside. So I would just look for pullback and look for price to hold below this level. For example, 66.20, price can turn around there. So those are the two levels I would watch out for. But overall, I am looking for it to pull back and then potentially drop. Dollar CAD here. Dollar CAD has been interesting. We saw that oil prices have been dropping, and as a result of that, dollar CAD has reacted to it. So in this case, we do have a bullish candle close. We are into resistance here, so we have to be careful with that one, because if price does not break through the resistance at 0.3080 here and cross to the other side, then it could turn around. So we just have to be mindful of that. We don't want it to do that, because if it does that, then we have to start looking for the target to the downside. But right now, my expectation, my base scenario is this. I'm looking for price to break through the high. And once it breaks through and holds on the other side, then I'm looking for price to move up further into 1.3250 level. However, overall here, the bias is still to the downside. So we could see this sort of return. Price goes to test the high and then drop from here. So that's something that we will have to be careful with. But right now, overall, the bias is bullish based on the weekly candle close, and I would be looking for price to go up further. 1.3080 will be the first target. 1.3250 will be the second target. Euro pound here. Euro pound has done a bit of a turn around here. So if we take a look at the daily, we see that price has pushed up higher. On a weekly, that gives us an indecision candle. So we have this bit of a doji here. Now, with this one, we have a couple of different options here, because it's not a very strong candle. It's a very, very weak candle, if anything. Now, that does tend to happen after we have had big drops. We do normally see pullbacks, and then we see a continuation or a reversal. With this one, the bias still remains to the downside. I would look for price to test the high at 0.8800, which is the high of this doji here, and then potentially drop. Or just like we talked about Australian dollar and New Zealand dollar, I think this could pull back further into 88.50 level as well, and then drop from there. So overall bias remains to the downside, but we can see one of these moves. So target here would be 0.8720 level to the downside after the pullback. Euro Swiss franc here. Euro Swiss franc is looking bullish for the last few weeks. We have seen it go up and looking for it to go up further. 1.1530 would be, actually we could probably put it all the way up here, 1.1550, which is the pin in here. That will be the target. Now, keep in mind that we are right into resistance right here. So there is a chance that it could turn around. So that's the only thing we'll have to keep in mind, because price could do one of these. As we can see, the support resistance level that price is at currently, price has turned around several times at this level, which means it can turn around. All this support can act as resistance, and we can see the price drop from there. But overall bias still remains to the upside here, and we could see price go up higher. So bias is bullish. 1.14, so 1500 will be the first target, and 1550 will be the second target to the upside. Pound Swiss franc here. Okay, so we'll do the Swiss crosses here, and we'll do the yen crosses as well. So this one here is also a neutral candle. We see pins on both sides, which gives it gives this a neutral bias. We see that momentum is sort of waning out of this move here because candles were larger, and then we have this indecision candle. Now, indecision candle means it can go either direction here. As we can see from this indecision candle, price turned and started to pull back, but this indecision candle, price continued on higher. So it can go in either direction. It's hard to predict at this point. So what I would look for is for price to test either level. If price goes and tests the high at 1.3140 level and then drops, then we're looking for price to come back lower. If it goes into the bottom here, then we're looking for it to go back up higher. Now, if it breaks down, then we're looking for price to drop further. And then if it breaks to the upside, then we're looking for price to kind of go up further. So not the best candle in terms of looking for market direction, but we'll mark the two next support and resistance areas as well. And we'll just have to wait and see which direction price wants to go in. So to the upside here, 1.3300 will be the target. And in the bottom, if price breaks through the bottom here, we're looking for 1.2750 as the target. But like I said, we have to see which direction this one will break, and we look for the price, and then we go in the direction that price is showing us. Next one here, dollar Swiss franc. Dollar Swiss franc, we are at all the way into the high here, or into resistance here, I should say. Sorry, not all the way into the high. We are into resistance here. So as we can see, price has reacted several times here on a weekly basis. This is a very small candle close here. Now, I would look for price to go and test the high once again. And if price tests the high and then reacts either into this level or higher into the top of these pins, then I would look for it to drop. So the candle is very, very small. The momentum seems to be going out of it at this point. So we'll just have to wait and see. It's kind of like this. We had a big move, and then momentum sort of fades away and price pulls back. So it can pull back from here as a result of this momentum fading. However, it can continue higher as well because there is room to the upside. But for now, I would look for the retest. And if price cannot break through the high of 99.50, then I would look for a move to the downside here. So not very clear signals this week in terms of strong moves, because we saw price basically go in all kinds of direction here. Pound yen here. Pound yen, we saw that price has tested this level 149.50 several times, 4 times now. On a weekly basis, we have a nice bearish engulfing candle close. So this one looks weak here, and I would look for price to drop further. Target here would be 145.00. So bearish bias for pound yen. Euro yen here, this is bearish as well, and I would look for it to drop further. In terms of a pullback, so we could see a pullback here. Price goes up, and then we see this type of a move. Target here would be 128.50, but we could see a pullback into a 130.20-ish level. So keep an eye on that. But from a weekly candle close perspective, this is bearish. See, last week we were looking for a bearish move here, and we got that. So now we still have a nice bearish candle close. So I will look for a continuation to the downside for that. Dollar yen here. Dollar yen also, we have a bearish candle close. Price went into this support resistance level. It has dropped from there. And now I would look for price to move lower because we have a nice bearish close here. 112.00 will be the target to the downside, or the first target to the downside, and then potentially 110.80 level. But the bias here is bearish as well. Now there was a question looking at CAD Swiss franc and dollar Swiss franc. So we looked at dollar Swiss franc already. Actually, I'm not sure if I'll be able to pull up a chart here. I will try. It's not a pair that I trade often. Actually, I think I don't have proper connection here, so I may not be able to pull up the chart. Okay, so sorry, we may have to skip that. Let's do Aussie yen and okay, so Aussie yen here. That's a big. There's a big pin in the bottom, which means it could go higher, but also means that price could drop to test the bottom. So in this case, we could look for this type of a move. Price goes down to test the bottom and then moves up higher, kind of like this one right here. So we had this bearish candle with pin in the bottom. So price tried to go lower and then it closed higher. So that's something to keep in mind. Similar to here as well. So I would look for price to test the bottom, 79.00. And if price is not able to break it, for it to go back higher into the top of this little move here, 80.50 level. Now let's go to gold. Okay, gold. Oops, my apologies. Okay, gold has been trading in this range for weeks now. So it is still range based. Hasn't really been able to break out of the range. It did try to do that here, but it has pulled back. Although from a daily perspective, it is holding above here. So just looking at the daily for a second, if the price does not break below this 1200 level, then it can go up higher. So what we could see here is price comes into this 1200 level and then go back higher. So important thing will be to see the reaction of price at 1200 or 1213-ish level. So right now I would look for price to drop a little bit here, and then depending on if it's able to hold above the 1200 level or not, we can look for it to go higher. So basically still looking for a range bound move, something like this, and looking for it to go up. Okay, so oil here. Oil is looking... Sorry, just want to see what's going on here. So we have current price is, my apologies, just give me a second, 71.20. This one shows 74. Okay, so I may have a problem here. Oh boy. Because looks like I am not connected for some reason. So let me just go to TradingView real quick here and see if we can. What do we have for oil? Let's do WTI. Yeah, that's the problem, Greg. It looks like I'm seeing two different price points, which is a problem. And I wonder if it did that for everything. So that's my concern now. Okay, so let's take a look at oil here. See what we have for the weekly charts. That's our daily. Going back to week. Okay, 71.46. So my weekly is not showing up properly. So the daily was correct. All right, so based on the weekly here, that's a drop. So I would look for price to drop further. 66.55 will be the target to the downside. Now we are coming into support right here at $70, and it could turn from here. But so that's something 70 0.00 will be the one to pay attention to. It goes through that support, then we're looking for price to drop further. Bias is bearish for oil over here, and the target would be 66.55. Now, another thing I'm going to go take a look at here will be, actually, I just want to see if our other charts had similar problem here. Okay, so the other ones seem okay. So this one seems okay. It looks like the currencies were fine because I think I do update them regularly, but this one was, so this one is neutral as we had expected. I'll do the pound real quick here. So it looks like somehow my platform disconnected there. Yeah, pound is neutral as well. So it looks like the currency crosses were fine. It was just the oil that was not changing there. Okay, so question here was in regards to CAD Swiss franc. So let me take a quick peek here. Yeah, it could also be just an MT4 issue here. CAD Swiss franc here. So we had a drop here. So the candle close here is bearish, but we have a pin on the bottom here, which means that price could test the bottom once again. And we are into the support and resistance level right here. So let me just draw the support resistance. So this support resistance at, now we didn't do it. Okay, so our support resistance at 75.50 level. So if you don't see, so it goes all the way into here. So if you don't see, actually could go a little bit lower here. So basically what I would look for is for price to drop here, come test the low, and if it holds above, then chances are it's going to go higher because overall bias is still to the upside here. So we have this upwards bias, but it has started pulling back. But because there is pin on the bottom, which suggests that price could continue higher again. So I would look for price to come test the bottom again. If it holds above, then it's very likely then it's going to go higher. But if it breaks down here, we have this whole candle that can be filled. In that case, I will look for it to drop. So not the strongest. It does have the bearishness in it from the weekly perspective, but it's not a very strong bearish candle. It's not like this one here. This was a strong bearish candle, and I would look for price to drop, which it did. But this one is not as strong. Anytime there are pins in the bottom, I'm always concerned about price turning around like this one here. There was a pin in the bottom and price turned around. So this one could turn here. And then let's take a look at, we looked at oil. Let's take a look at gold. Okay, so gold from a weekly perspective, this is why this was the problem. It wasn't showing up properly because that candle should not have been, based on what the daily was showing, that candle should not have been red. And that's why I was concerned. Okay, so gold here, we have a bullish candle close. So I would look for, same thing, a retest of this 1200 level. If price comes to retest the 1200 level, then I would look for price to push up higher. But right now, that's a bullish candle close. So gold is looking bullish, and the target here would be 1240 level. So bias is bullish. It can retest downwards a little bit, but bias is bullish for gold, and I will look for a 1240 level on gold, because we did have that nice break. Just kind of going back to the charts here on gold for a second, that's why it didn't look right. See this break that we have outside of this range that price was trading in for quite some time here. It just stayed in this range, so it could come and test the top of this range and then continue higher, because it did close on the daily. It closed lower. So I think it could continue lower, but then I would look for it to continue higher, because it did have that nice break. And I would look for price to hold above this previous high and then continue higher. So bias for gold is bullish, because the weekly candle close here is bullish. So I'm looking for it to go higher. So that's gold. And what else do we need to look at? We looked at oil, we looked at gold. Let's take a look at, where's my copper? Let's take a look at copper, and then we'll take a look at silver and Bitcoin here. So gold, silver is, oh, sorry. So silver is all the way in the bottom here. So with the volume, it's kind of hard to see, but but it looks bullish here as well. It looks like it tested the low, rejected that, and it's not as strong as gold, but it looks like it wants to move higher. So the target for this one will be 14.98. It's about $15 here, and it could continue higher here as well, just like gold. So bullish bias for silver as well. And let's take a look at copper here. So copper is, copper's looking bullish here as well. And I will look for it to continue higher. 2.85 will be the target for copper, and it could go higher as well. There's room further up, 2.87, but for now, 2.85 will be the target. Basically, top of these pins here. That's a nice bullish candle close for the week, so looking for it to continue higher. Let's take a look at our US dollar index here. Okay, I'm totally having a brain freeze here. What is my dollar index called? I thought it was USDX or DXY. They have a different symbol here. Okay. On the charts, it's USDX. Here it's DXY. All right, so in terms of the dollar index here, from the weekly perspective, we had a bearish candle close. So as we can see, price went to test the high. So this is my point in regards to the candles that have pins on them. See how price went to test the high here because we had a green candle, bullish candle close, but we had a large pin on the top. So price went to test the pin and then dropped from there. So this looks bearish at this point. So dollar index looks bearish, which means we could see a drop further. The target here would be 95.23, which is our level right here. But we are into support. See this support right here? We are currently into support. So if price does not hold below this, if it does not cross below this, it could turn around. But at this moment, the way the candle is, it looks bearish. And I think this one could drop. 95.23 will be the target to the downside. And at the same time, let's take a look at our Euro index as well. So generally, they tend to move in the opposite direction. So let's have a quick peek. All right, so here we have a bullish candle close for Euro index. We are into resistance. So again, it's like completely opposite of the dollar index, which it tends to be. We are into this resistance level right here. So there is a chance that this one could turn around. But right now, it's looking bullish, and my target level will be higher here, 117 will be the target level. So bias is bullish, but I would be mindful of that resistance that it's currently in right there. If it doesn't go above 115.90, then it could turn from there. But right now, it looks bullish. All right, any questions before we wrap this up? Okay, so I don't see any more questions. We will call it a wrap. Oh, can we look at Bitcoin? Okay, let's take a quick peek at Bitcoin here. Bitcoin charts here aren't the best. Okay, but looks like there is, oh, that's not right. That's not Bitcoin. Now what's Bitcoin here? BTC USD, there we go. All right, so Bitcoin looks weak here. We have a bearish candle close, so I would look for it to drop further. 60.91 or even 60.20 will be the target to the downside. So it looks like it could drop further here. So first target will be 60. So I would look for the bottom of this pin here, 61.50, and then it could drop further. Let me just mark this here. So we have 60.91, sorry. And then below that, it could go further as well. So bias is bearish for Bitcoin. 60.91 will be the target to the downside. So I don't know how much it's poised to bounce up. It's just consolidating right here for the last little while. It still has this downward trajectory. So what we need to see this rounded bottom kind of formation, and it hasn't given us that. It seems like it's actually pushing to the downside, if anything. So my bias is still to the downside here. But if we kind of flatten out here and start that upward swing, then it can start moving up. But it's not there yet. Doesn't look like it's quite ready to bounce back. I think it may take some time here still. All right, so we will call it a wrap here. So you guys have a wonderful week, wonderful trading week, and I will see you again next week. Bye for now. You're welcome. Bye.